Hello, I think this is the 16th stream of the tower defense. Um, Today I'll try to go over the little settings that we'll be adding. We're getting close to completion. I would love to finish it by the end of this week. So I'll be adding a lot of little features that we're currently missing, but still need to be added. So I'll start off by adding the description tag, as well as adding another button for targeting, and that's going to be, instead of lowest, it's going to be highest HP target. So for this tab, we only need to add the description, highest health, and that'll be done. So what I'll change this is to 3 for the firing mode, because that's just the next mode, and that should be done for this section. So just to quickly show the code, so what this does is, if we go into our tower script, is the stream not working? Hello? Oh, it's back. So anyway, so the firing mode is just attaches the firing mode based on the integer that we pass through, and what it does is it changes between the types of damage. So we have a function for finding the closest target, one that's the furthest away, one for that has the highest health, and one that has the lowest health. So when we click on the tower, let's just place a tower, and we put a tower down. We can then click on the tower, and right now it's set to closest, but we can change to a different type, like lowest health instead. There we go. It sniped that guy instead, like so. And next, we want to add the description into the game. So we will add the descriptions by going into our docking script, which is found in the canvas, I think. Where are we? There we go, here. And first thing we need to do is we need to add in a place for the description to be shown. There's really not a lot of space right now, so I'll just have to be slightly creative. What's this basic doc? It'd be nice if I can somehow fit the text in here. Guess we'll just do it like this. It might be not really good, but we will see, I guess. So call it description. Rename the text to description. It is best fit, and the lowest we can have it. Let's just make it really small as the minimum size. Actually, it's slightly coming out. There we go. And now in our doc information, we simply need to add another tag, which is private text description, like so. Now, for displaying the enemy, we don't want the description to be visible, so description.gameObject.sack false. But we do want it visible for the tower. So for tower, we will set it to true, and we will, of course, change it based on our current tower. So description.text is equal to current tower stats.description, like so. Actually, this has to be below, and this has to be here, like so. With this now, our description will automatically show if we just attach it to the empty field in here. So let's just give it a try and place a tower that has some kind of a description, which should be the freeze tower. Slows down the enemies, which is exactly what it does. One thing that it doesn't do is it doesn't update the image as I see here. Let's try a different tower and see if it prevails. Yeah, so the image doesn't seem to be displaying an image for the tower. So let's fix that. So let's go into our description, not description, to our, I believe it's going to be the icon image. Icon image dot sprite is going to be equal to current tower stats dot tower stats dot icon, like so. And now we have the icon of the tower being displayed. Let's place one down. We still have the health, but towers don't have the health. So this is where the health bar actually has to disappear. So what we'll do here is health bar at the game object.set active false. And of course, if we do that here, then we need to do the opposite in the enemy, simply because it will automatically disable itself later. So let's give this a try. Place the tower down, click on it, there we go. It's not actually making what we want disappear, which is a problem. What is the for? Oh, because it only has the reference to the foreground. So let's change this slightly. Instead of doing that, I'm going to remove this from here. Where is it? Health bar. So we'll make a new serializable field, private transform, and that's health stats display. Where are we? And there you go. Now we can drag the appropriate section, which is this entire section, into here, and that'll be good enough. So now let's place the tower down, and there you go. We no longer have the little bar, and that also means that we can extend the description over to where the health is, which is what we kind of want to do, to be honest, because the descriptions could be a little bit longer, like so. Now, with this done, let's go back to main menu. And in the main menu, there are a few things that we need to do to our options panel. So let's enable the options panel. And firstly, let's make some code. So let's go to here, main menu, and we'll create a video settings. We'll create video settings. We will create sound settings. And finally, we will create gameplay settings. Now, this will each correspond to its original tab. And then, do we have anything that controls the options? No, so let's create another one which controls the options. So option settings, like so. This will let us move between the options appropriately. So let's attach our option settings here. Now our content panel, this is where we'll have a panel for each of our options. So here we will have our video settings. And we'll copy this 2 more times, change that around. like so, and finally gameplay settings. So with this done, let's go into our options and make it so we can change between our buttons. So we have 3 sets of buttons. So we can put a public void change settings, and that will just take an integer, and that's going to be option number, and set options. Actually, no. So what this will do is it will just enable the correct panel based on our options. So let's make a private transform, and that will be the option buttons. No, option panels, like so. Let's make this an array. And what we'll do is we'll drag in each of our panels in, and then when we pass through our options number, it'll just enable that panel and disable all of the other ones. So private void reset panels. This will reset all the active panels so we don't get any errors. Option panels.length. So we'll for each panel, and we'll just do for each options panel at position of I, and we'll set active to false, and we'll simply just run this at start of changing settings. So reset panels here, and then we just set the correct panel to true. Passing through the options number, like so. We also want to do this at start. So when we first load in, we want to automatically load this in, and we want to pass 0 because our first panel is going to be a graphic. So that's the first one we want to enable. Now, if we just attach this code through, so now we have 3 of these. So let's lock this so it doesn't escape and drag through each of these. So we have videos at 0, sound at 1, gameplay at 2. Very simple. With this now we can add code to our buttons. Let's just quickly, so we have the sprite swapping, navigation is disabled, that's fine. Let's drag this in, go into option settings, do that 1 and 2, and that's very simple, but it works. We don't need a lot for options anyway. Now let's open all of our classes that we just created for doing options, and let's start filling them out a little bit. I'll close everything else for now. Like so, because we only need to focus on them. Of course, they don't need any of these for now, so let's get rid of them. What do we have here? Yep. So first, we will start off by doing our video settings. So for video settings, we want to change resolutions. So let's first do the visuals. So inside of this panel, probably should have made them slightly bigger, like so. Why can I? Oh, because the content. Okay, never mind. That was a mistake. Okay, pull this. Maybe slightly bigger. There we go. So what do we want in video settings? Well, we definitely want to be able to change between the resolutions. So for that, let's just make something very simple. So I'll make 3 sets of buttons, 1, 2, 3. But like so. So the first button is not actually a button, it's just there for the visuals. Let's disable the other ones. So each of these will have an arrow, which we don't have just yet. So this will be not a button, but this will be the resolution text. This will be the right arrow, and this will be the left arrow. let's make both of these buttons. So for now, since we don't have any graphics, we'll just do it like this, and then later we will change it to an actual graphic. Let's disable any navigation and transitions for these. Also, I will do them inside of a panel. So I'll put a panel like so, and these panels will basically be little separators. So this will be panel text resolution, and it's going to be panel resolution swap, and then we'll use a layout group to nicely position everything. So here we will just add a text, make it spread across the entire thing, middle center it, and we'll put resolution like so. Of course, everything is bold, and it's going to be scaled to size, like so. Now with this one, we want to drag in our 3 sets of buttons like so, and I'll add a horizontal layout group. Of course, now we see it's looking slightly off, but that's because they're in an incorrect place. Just swap the arrows around. There we go, better. And I'll center them out like so. Now the text, of course, will change to something like 7080 by 1920, or would it be the other way around? 1920 by 1080. There we go, like so. Of course, this text will be manually changed from our options anyway, and these buttons will be what triggers each option. So we will start off by making some variables. So for resolution, we will need a way to store in the numbers. So what I'll do is I'll just store them manually as a height or a width, like so. I have a little cheat sheet of some resolutions I've prepared for this. So we're going to go with several preset resolutions. That's something that you could, of course, change yourself based on your code, however you want to do it. But for this, that should be good enough to do. Okay, so let me just paste in the resolutions real quick. Like so. There we go. We have our 8 entries. And we will have our 8 entries here. So we have 10, 8, and 9, then, well, we have our 1920 by 1080, etc., etc. Now then there's next we will need to write we'll write down the resolution. There's 2 ways to do it. I can either put it as a string, or I can put height, width, and then the X in the middle, which is what we're going to do, because there's no point to make a brand new string for it. So let's try to code this in so it actually works. So we have 2 buttons. We have public void our next resolution, and that will be for the button clicking the next resolution, and then we'll have public void previous resolution. So this will get the previous number in the string. So what we'll do is basically, so now we can attach the buttons to our settings. So let's add our video settings in here, and let's click on our right arrow and left arrow and attach our video settings down here, like so. and then go into our functions, video settings, and this is the left arrow, so that's previous. And then right arrow is next. There we go, like so. And with this, we can then add. So what happens is when we click this, we want to set a resolution. We want to, well, we want to change to the correct of these options. So what we need is something that keeps track of where we are at. So private int, and that's going to be a resolution iteration. And when we press next, resolution iteration gets added, but when we press minus, the resolution iteration gets taken away. Of course, that means that we can go above 8 or below 8. So this is where we have to fix this. So we'll just do a simple if resolution iteration is smaller than or equal to -1, because that's below our index of 0, then we want to set it to our so our resolution iteration will have to be what's the maximum of our array. So we do this by making our resolution equal to, well, that either height or length, because they're both the same size, -1. The reason why it has to be -1, because when it counts, dot length counts how many there are. So what it would count is there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So the number we get is 8. But array numbering starts from 0, so the highest one would be actually 7, not 8. But there is 8 of them in total. Right, and here we will just do the same thing but in reverse. So we'll use this and we'll just do the width dot length -1, and then resolution would equal to 0, because we did the full loop, so we can go back to the start. Now, with this done, we can now update our text, which says which resolution it is, but we don't currently have any references to that. So let's create a new reference to our text. So we'll do private text, and that's going to be the resolution text. And let's make a function private void set resolution text, and our resolution text is going to equal to resolution will equal to our, what do we have? So we put the width first, so it's going to be equal to width at resolution iteration plus a little x, plus height resolution iteration, like so. And we want to call this every single time we add or take away from our resolution, like so. So now let's attach this into our content panel. Hello. Oh, that's right. We need to make this field so we can actually attach the text component into it. Where are we? Okay. With this done, let's give this a quick try to see if it works. Of course, at start, we would actually have to set some kind of a resolution as well. Of course, later on we will change it so it reads from the screen. Oh, actually, there is an error from the saving, so I'm just going to quickly disable all the saving features, as I'm not going to do saving today. Will it give me any more errors, or do I have to comment on more? No, that should be fine. So we open options, we have our resolutions, there we go, and they change and update as they should. One thing that I've noticed is that we don't know which tab we're currently at. So what we'll change here is change the tab to selected. So we need to know that when they're selected. So let's just attach that in. So we open our, oh, that's the map editor. Go into options, we click and so yeah, so this needs to stay active. So we'll add a little script later on to handle that. Either way, what do we have here? What do we have here? Set resolution. Okay, so now that we did that, we actually need to set the resolution to our object. So let's add a new button which will confirm our changes, and that will be at the very bottom. So let's just copy one of our panels, and this is going to be our, actually let's move it at the very bottom. It's going to be our panel text, panel confirmation, and here we'll just have a button. Where is it? Which will do confirm changes. Let's go and code that in. So we'll add a new public void confirm video changes. And this will run through everything that needs to be confirmed. So to set our resolution, we simply just do screen dot set resolution, and it takes in 3 parameters. So this is the width, height, and full screen. We haven't covered the full screen portion yet, but we can put in the width and the height. So the width is going to be width at the index of resolution. And then the height is going to be, of course, the height at the resolution. And then finally, we don't have anything here. So we'll just do full screen mode dot full screen, but now we can add either full screen or windowed. So let's go back here and create two another tabs. So one will have a writing, the other one will have action. Let's remove this button and add in a text component, and then screen size, make it full, center, bold. As long as it works, that's fine. And how will we trigger between that? Well, there's 4 settings as we saw in the screen mode, but the only ones that we actually care about are windowed and full screen. So I guess the easiest way to do it would be to use a tick box, because tick box is going to give us 2 values. It's either going to be 0 or 1 or true or false. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove that. Let's rename everything so we don't get confused. Text screen size, and here we will put panel, and this is going to be screen size tick box. And if you go into UI, there should be a toggle, is what we're after. Now, the toggle has a text which can tell us whenever we are full screen or not, and the toggle also has the toggle itself. So those are the 2 things we are looking after. So what we'll simply do is we'll check whenever it's full screen or whenever it's windowed, like so. with our toggle. Now we'll start this by adding some controls to our toggle. And now, how do I use a toggle? I don't remember. On value changed. Oh, so toggle is, since toggle has our, where are we? It's either it's on or it's not. We can directly access that. So what I'll do is I'll do a private and I believe a toggle, and that's going to be full screen toggle. And we'll create our own value, which is going to be boolean is full screen, like so. And what we can now do is, if we do is full screen dot is equal to our full screen toggle, and then is on, then that basically turns our value to the same value as the toggle itself. And based on that, we can simply change it here. So if is full screen, then we run our full screen video, else we run the other one. It's as simple as that. So that's how we can use the toggle button. Of course, what we want to do is we have to run this every time the toggle actually changes. So we'll just make a function and we'll call it public void on toggle change. And on toggle change, we will run this line of code. We'll also run on toggle change at the start. Of course, later on, these settings will be saved by the user, so this code will slightly change by what it is by default, but the save system for the settings doesn't exist here because we're only doing the settings now. So we don't have to worry about that. So let's add some comments into the code. So it sets the next resolution from the array of available resolutions. Sets the previous resolution from the array of available resolutions. I'll be coding everything later when this is available to download as a prototype version. All of the code and everything will be free to download. So if anyone wants to have a look at the code, use it for whatever, all of it will be there and it will be nicely commented later on. For now, I'm trying not to do it because I only get that 1 hour to stream a day. So I'm trying to squeeze in as much as I can. Whilst I can. Now with this, I guess we have everything that we want for our resolution. For now, we can add more options later, but I can't think of anything on the top of my head. Quality settings is something I could show how to add, but it will not be visible in this game because I don't have any assets to impact the quality settings in the first place for this project. So there really is no need to add quality options into it. Now, moving on to the next toggle, we're going to have our sounds setting. So let's disable this panel and enable the sound panel. I kind of like how we use these, so I'm just going to drag one in here. There we go. And we all follow the exact same routine for that. So we all have 3 sets of music sliders for our music. So we will have our text, so we'll have our master sound, we will have our music, and we will have our special sounds. So SFX or sounds, whatever. you would want to call it. So let's call it sounds. Let's call this one music. And finally, this one will say master written on it. Each of them will have, let's move these panels out actually, because they're now in the way slightly. Each of these will have their own sliders that adjust in the music. So this is going to be our slider master. And let's create a slider like so. And we'll do the same thing for the remaining ones, but for now, let's do some coding into the sound. So here we'll first get 3 references for 3 sliders. So we'll have private slider, and we will have master slider, sound slider, and was it music slider. Let's give them the value of null by default. I can already see them getting some yellow warnings, so ignore that one for now, as that's to be continued. Hello? Should be good now. There we go. And then we also need numbers that will correspond to those sliders. So we'll have a float for current master sound, current sound, and current music, like so. And then maybe actually we can add some text at the end of these, so which actually displays this in a numerical way for the user to understand. So let's move this and just write 100% just to see what it's going to look like. Move it in a little bit closer, add the percentage sign. There you go. Good enough for now. We'll later play around with all of the scalings and whatnot. Let's make it bold. There you go, like so. So now let's add the text components in, private text, and that's going to be a master percent text. We'll have master percent text sound, percent text, and finally music percent text, like so. With all of that prepared, we can drag them in as well as start doing some programming. So setting the sound will be the exact same thing as how we did it with the other ones. So we'll do public void, and we will just do set sound. We will have set sound, set music, and finally set master. And what this will do is it will take the value from the slider, and it will actually have to calculate it. Let's actually, I believe we will need to adjust the sliders. So our sliders go between 0 and 1, and that's actually fine because the sound is set as a 0 to 1. So 1 is maximum value and 0 is completely mute. But our percentages is not. So that's going to be a little difference that we'll have to make up for. So firstly, what we're going to do is for our set sound, we'll do our um, current sound, and then that's going to equal to our sound slider dot value. So with this, we've already set what our sound is like based on to our value, and then next we just have to display it properly. So what we'll do here is we will just set our sound percent text, and that's going to be equal to, actually, let's create a new float, and that's going to be calculate value. Going to set it to 0, and then we'll do calculate value, and then it's going to be equal to current sound, and we're going to times it by 100 basically. Since we're dealing with values between 0 and 1, if we times it by 100, then 1 is going to be 100. Anything in between will be the correct percentage that we're looking for. So here we'll just do calculate value plus, and then the percentage sign like so. We just need to duplicate this for the remaining sets of functions, but we need to change from current sound to, actually, we could set all of this into a single function rather than playing around like this. If we set everything as a array, we just have to remember which stands for which. So what I'll do is I'll create a header which says the order. So it's going to be music, sound, and no, master, music, master, sound, music, like so. And are we set? We already set in this order, so we'll do float, and we'll type in sound. Well, we'll make this an array and type in sounds, like so. We'll do the exact same for these guys. Sounds sliders. Now, this might be more confusing to the eye, but I believe it's going to be way neater in terms of code. So this is going to be sounds text, sounds percent text, like so. And let's set that to this. And what we'll do here is new, and we'll set this to, what was it, new float, and a size of a 3. So our sounds will have a size of 3 as well as everything else. What we could actually also do this is declare this in awake or start and set it to the length of our slider or text. Alternatively, but that doesn't matter. Yeah, hello, it is a tower defense, although I'm doing the options currently. So let's just replicate these. Just gonna we'll pass in an integer, which is going to be the iteration. What's our current? And with this, instead of having 3 different values, we'll just have 1 value for everything else. If you want, I can show how the tower defense is going along, because what I'm doing right now has got nothing to do with the tower defense. But yeah, I'm going to quickly attach these into our code. So we need our sound settings, and now we have our 2 values for the sliders. So now let's get our slider master. We need to duplicate it 2 more times because we need 2 other sliders for this, and that's going to be the sounds. And finally, that one's going to be our music. Okay, let me just give a quick show and see of the tower. So the tower defense, there's 4 different levels. There is a system that allows you to build the levels, although that's work in progress as I decided to include that in the final prototype of the game. The game has various towers. There's going to be 3 more added later on. The game allows you to control the speed and start waves. So towers are very basic. They fire on a target based on the setting that you have. The values, the variables that you have are damage range and rate of fire. And there's 10 helps with a money system for the player to enjoy. I tried to include as many different unique mechanics that I can think of for a tower defense based game. I basically looked at other tower defense games and tried to create some forms of unique towers that are not repetitive based on that. But that's basically where the game's at right now. It's a prototype, and my aim for this project is to show how to do it, and then, of course, make this open source for anyone who wants to start their own tower defense or a similar project to have a little base of code that they can go off of. Right now, I'm mainly working on the little bits like setting up settings and whatnot. Later on, I'll finish doing the save system, map editor, and I'll finish off the project by working on the final polishes to the actual gameplay. And once that's done off stream, I'll do balancing, final bug testing, and I'll be uploading everything to GitHub. Um, so it's accessible for anyone. And once that's done, I'll do a different genre of a game that I haven't decided yet on. Either way, back to our little sound settings. So let's make sure this now works. So now we need to drag in the sliders and the texts. Where are we? Master slider, 1, master sound and music in this order. Master sound and text. And now if we click on each of the sliders, we just do on value changed, drag in our sound, and call in the set sound function. Of course, we need to make sure that the integer is set based on their positioning in the array, which is 0, 1, 2. So that's 0, that's 1, that's 2, like so. And with this, we should be able to get the accurate results of our values. So let's just drag our values to their appropriate spots and press play and give it a try. So if we change into sounds, we have an error. And the error is from our video settings because our toggle has not been attached. So if I just go into the toggle and drag in the toggle, there we go. Toggle's now set. And if we go into sounds, one thing that's not happening is, so there's currently a few issues. First, we're getting way too direct with the percentages. Secondly, why can I not? So the second biggest problem is the numbering. So let's fix these guys down. So problem number 1 is our value of percentage. So I'm going to do toString, and what I'll do is I'll put 0, 0 in here like so. Now, the reason why I did that was because I don't want to have decimal points. There is no point for them for this. So now if you go into options, actually, and let's drag in, there we go. Now we get full numbers. We no longer get any points. in between. And another problem is that our slider value is not set to our sounds by default. So what I'll have to do is create a start function, and what I'll just have to do is loop through every single slider. Well, we can loop through any single one of them. So let's just do the sliders dot length, and what we'll actually have to do is set sound like so, and we'll pass it through I. So what this will do is it will automatically change our sliders to their correct values when we play and go into options. Of course, later on this will be slightly tweaked, so it loads based on our actual values. Now, we have some issues here, and the issue here is with the sound slider. Oh, because I moved the actual slider itself, which is a big whoopsie. So let's move this down here, find our slider, go back in the center, please. And with this, it should work fine. There we go. Now all of our sliders work fine. Of course, we currently don't have any set of options to attach this code towards, but that's fine. Settings will be added tomorrow, as we're already doing these now. And we'll have all of the sound and the video settings currently properly set. Now my hour of streaming is coming to an end now. I have 5 minutes left. So let's have a look at my to-do list. We did do the options. We did add the tower description today. What I believe I don't actually have time to do anything else for today, as anything that's bigger would take too long to do. Nope, that's all good. That's all good. Yeah, so I'll call it quits for today. Tomorrow we will be adding all of this into our save system. So we'll be probably capable of saving the values from the video settings as well as sound settings. We will not touch upon gameplay settings anytime soon, simply because the gameplay settings will be added only once the the actual gameplay is fixed and won't get any changes. There are some cool things that I want to implement, like changing how you can place the tower based on your gameplay preferences and so on. But this is it for today. Feel free to follow. I'll be doing streaming tomorrow, and I stream every day 10 to 11. I mean, every Monday to Friday. Saturdays are a weird day, but since I'm getting close to the end of the project, I'll try to do 1 or 2 hour cleanup stream to get this project out of the way, so next week we can start doing the next titles. And thanks for the watch.